Secondary school and JC students could soon get more entrepreneurship opportunities as Singapore looks to spark the startup instinct earlier. Minister of State for Manpower Dinesh Vasu Dash says lower barriers, AI and stronger support make it easier for young people to start. He says they should be encouraged to take the first step and not be held back by fear of failure. Teo and Nasyrah Rohim sit down with him on the future of Singapore startups.
Singapore's next generation of entrepreneurs may not need a big office, a large team, or deep pockets to start. The government wants the first step into business to feel less out of reach, especially for young people with ideas, but concerns over cost, risk, and whether Singapore is too small to grow from.
Speaking of youth entrepreneurs, some of the youth that we've spoken to, they have started businesses in media, in coffee shop businesses. How do these startups kind of fit in the whole ecosystem when there's so much focus on AI and so much focus on biotech?
What it means for a young person who's listening to this discussion is that the barriers to entry is much lower. So today, with the ability to start a company, it's actually very, very easy with many of the grants that are available with Enterprise Singapore and so forth. But more importantly, the ability to then scale your business, to be able to have the additional support structures that you need and so forth, is very much more simplified with many more support structures in place.
Those support structures include JTC Launchpad at One North and the newer Launchpad at Punggol Digital District. Mr. Dinesh co-chairs the Entrepreneurship Committee, one of 5 looking at Singapore's long-term competitiveness. He says the aim is to keep the door open for any idea that can grow, not just those in high-tech sectors.
So we're here at JTC Launchpad at One North. Could you share with me a bit about your engagements on the ground when you interact with startups?
It's very dynamic and it's very difficult to determine where the winning areas are. Because there could be many other areas that are out there. There could be traditional areas that we may not have been looking at, and therefore the approach that government keeps is, as far as there's an opportunity and you're moving towards that, we will support you. And we are not here to take bets to say that this industry is better than the other industry, but to keep all options open, and the first to get there will get the support, and we will then find a way to power them forward.
But building a startup culture also means starting younger. Mr. Dinesh says the instinct to create, trade and build is already present in many Singaporeans. For him, that lesson started at home.
So you've shared a lot about the efforts to reduce, physical and financial barriers. But I also want to shift the conversation to more about our youth and also what's being done to kind of to build that culture and to encourage youth to leap into startups.
I've mentioned that I've got 3 children, and my second boy is one who, when he was very young, he had the interest of, he had a little entrepreneurial streak in him, and he decided at a very young age, when I think he was about 4 or 5, to take a paper clip and to trade it, and to keep on trading it until you get something substantial. So it started with a humble paperclip. It went on and on and on, and he asked me to rummage through my drawer and get all sorts of stuff, and we started trading and so on. Eventually he had sufficient money to get a pen, and he eventually sold that pen for $20. And for a boy who's 5 years old, $20 seems like more than $2,000, right? And he took that money, and it was a small little cachet of goodies that he bought with it, including chocolates and the rest of it. So that spirit lies with many of us. What I see in my son is not unique to my son. I think many of us in Singapore, we do have that entrepreneurial spirit within us, and it's important for us to nurture that entrepreneurial spirit.
But the cultural barrier may be harder to shift than the financial one. In Singapore, entrepreneurship can still be seen by some as uncertain, risky, or less stable than a conventional career. Mr. Dinesh says that mindset has to change, especially around failure.
So do you think societal perceptions of this path or this route, which is often known as parents will say very risky, very foolhardy, so do you think we have moved quite far away from that?
We should be celebrating failures. I know it's a bit strange for me to say that, but because every failure will then result in a better success because of the lessons that are learned. And we'll have to find ways to then encourage our entrepreneurs, even if they fail, to then bounce up stronger the next time around. parents, myself included, my wife included, I think most parents will not stop their children from doing what their heart desires. And if the kids really believe that this is what they need to do, I'm sure most parents, as we would support them in doing what they need to do.
The next challenge is scale. Singapore may be a good place to start, but its domestic market is small. Mr. Dinesh says young founders must look beyond local shores early. AI is also changing what a new business can look like. Instead of needing full teams from day one, founders can now use digital tools to test ideas, manage basic operations, and reduce early costs.
There will be the opportunity that's available because a lot of the additional help that you would need in the initial phases can be done through AI. You could have an assistant that helps you with your HR, with your finances, and so on, and you don't need to spend your money on that yet.
Still, not every startup will survive. Mr. Dinesh says some fail because they cannot grow fast enough, adapt quickly enough, or keep up when competition arrives.
What kind of challenges have made some of the founders to actually pull back on their startups or close their business entirely?
The whole idea of a startup is you go very quickly, you find an area, and then you start expanding quickly as well. And if the speed of expansion is not fast enough, and when other competitors starts coming in, that's when you have some degree of risk, and your margins will get thinned out. And if you're unable to adapt fast enough, then you have the unenviable task of having to close down your company. We don't wish for anyone to close their companies down. There could be many reasons why the startup decides to close down or to wind their businesses up. In order to support them, there are many programs that are available to be a booster of sorts.
His message to young Singaporeans: don't assume entrepreneurship is only for someone else. Even he has had his own ideas.
I'm just curious, you mentioned that there's a spirit in every one of us. Yes. Have you ever had yourself an idea that you thought, maybe this could be something?
It doesn't mean that we need to have the entrepreneurial streak only in younger people alone, but people who are middle-aged, even seniors, you could have an idea that you're willing to try to get towards, and there could be an opportunity for you too. Do your sums, calculate your risk carefully, and you should be able to go. If you ask me personally, I'd always want to set up a nice, I'm not too sure if it's a bar or a restaurant some point, and then to just chill out there and to entertain my fellow folks who will turn up hopefully who will turn up at this bar or restaurant that I open up if I ever do one.
Singapore's startup push is about more than chasing the next unicorn. It's about building a culture where young people dare to start, fail, learn, and try again. The next global Singapore company may begin not with $1 billion idea, but with one small first step.